Then for the pro versions, a simple formula for now is $50 a month USD for the first user, plus 15 I always have to say 15 for each additional firm users. Okay. It needs to be same firm. So so usually we take a look at make sure it's the same domain name. Our philosophy is it's unlimited clients. As a matter of fact, we don't have access to your client list, or we don't know how many QBO company files are in RightTool. We could run a report that shows us, about how many different company files you switch to, but we really don't have API access to this company. We don't have a database of the clients that you have. So because of the nature of how the tool works, it's much easier for us to just give you unlimited access, unlimited power. And then that's why I think for the most part, our monthly fee for a pro user is a little bit higher than the average app. But the problem is the average app will charge you per company file. So that's kind of like where the trade-off is. And pro ads, that should be add with two Ds. And pro ads, 50 plus additional features, from which about 10 are batching related. That's probably the most popular, is whenever you can do more than one action with a single click. And we're going to cover those. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's start with batch delete in registers. This is the number one most requested feature. So essentially the way it works is we click on a batch button. Once we have that enabled, we click on the batch button. We have multiple choices. One, we can click one at a time, just kind of go down, click one at a time. Or you can click on select all, unselect all. Or if you want to click a particular group, you would click on one, hold the shift key. We can either go down arrow and up arrow while holding the shift key. I'm not using the mouse. Because I put the mouse on my head. So you see, I'm not using the mouse here. So we can do shift up, shift down, shift up, shift down. It selects a couple of them. And also you can, let me just select all, unselect all. You can click on one and do classic, shift click, and then click a whole group. That's all really, really important, because it is part of the process of selecting the transactions that you want to delete. So then once you select them in a group, you click on the delete button, and then you click on OK. There is a warning message that says, hey, you're deleting a total of $5,000 worth of transactions, and it's 5 transactions. Keep in mind that certain transactions are protected, like a sales tax payment, I assume in Canada, an HST tax payment, that sort of thing would be protected as well. Payroll tax, that sort of thing would be protected. But if we click OK, and then click OK, all you gotta do is let it do its thing, and it goes through and deletes that. So that's the batch delete feature, which is inside Batch Pro. And again, this is the number one highest voted pro feature in RightTool. Okay, the next highest voted pro feature in RightTool is copy paste from Excel into journal entry. Now, one thing I do want to add on top of copy Excel to transactions, I also want to add a free feature, which is the ability to export a journal entry into CSV. Probably going to be in the QBO experience, and it would be like export journal right here. Export journal to CSV, and then we'll also do breakout account number. So this is a free feature, but I use it in combination. I'll explain to you why. Because exporting, sometimes you can take a current journal entry and you want to export it, manipulate it in Excel, then bring it back. So it's a good starting point also for demoing purposes as well. For me, is to use a current journal entry to export. Okay, so if I grab a current journal entry that we have, and I'm going to add a couple more lines here. So you're just going to see me add a couple of lines here at random, just so we can show you the dynamic of this. So you see me here just adding a bunch of lines, and I'll take this exactly as it is. I'm going to take this specific journal entry, and I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to export this into CSV, and then I'm going to go ahead and open it in Excel. And then once I have it in Excel, I want you to imagine a world where maybe you're coming from something you created in QuickBooks originally, or maybe you have a specific app or a piece of software that builds the journal entries for you, or maybe you're taking a current report in QuickBooks and you're exporting it maybe from a separate QuickBooks file and you're using the same data to build a journal entry. I mean, there could be a gazillion reasons why you would do something like this. Maybe you're taking something like, $9,000 or $90,000 and you're dividing these by 8 or something like that, and you're going to use some sort of special formula like this to build numbers on a spreadsheet, right? Something like this, okay? And then you're using the power of spreadsheets to bring something into QuickBooks. Maybe you want to add description like adjustment for last year, something like that, okay? And then you can again use the power of Excel to bring information in. Maybe I want to bring a class, so I'll grab one of these classes here and copy it just to make sure I get it accurately. Let's just cut that and let's go back into Excel and I'll bring the class in or the name. So just imagine a world where you have what you need already in Excel and you want to bring that into QuickBooks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this information and I'm going to copy it, just a regular run-of-the-mill copy, okay? And then we go into journal entry and I'm going to create a brand new journal entry. And again, I've already copied this information from Excel. Then I'm going to click on this little icon here, which is the paste from Excel icon. And a new pop-up window is going to show up. Now, after it cycles through the drop-down menus, a pop-up window is going to show up. And at this point, you have essentially two options. One, you can click export all list data, which is actually useful for multiple reasons. But exporting all list data essentially creates a separate spreadsheet, which I'll show you here. It's a separate spreadsheet that contains essentially a database of all your accounts. Okay, there you go, all your accounts, all your names, so all your vendors, and then all your classes and locations would include that as well. And sorry, I said vendors and customers, your name list.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because sometimes, anyway, so again, the entire account list, the entire name list, the entire class list, the entire location list. So you can export that if you want to maybe create a special spreadsheet that verifies data points first, or for whatever reason you could do that export. But let's say you don't do the export, and again we'll go back to the actual original spreadsheet we already had with the journal entry. So we're going to copy that information, then we're going to paste it into this box, and then you're going to get a quick preview. The preview is going to essentially bring all the information in. If something is misspelled, okay, it's going to come in red, just kind of letting you know that that's not working. We actually had some feedback from some colorblind people that said that the red wasn't working for them. So we're going to have to figure out maybe how to make this. Maybe we'll make it dark red and the text white or something like that to just.
I have a whole idea for it. I just have to actually get my brain to do it. And that's a good point. I'm going to put that on a piece on a list for me to work on.
But for us, they're fortunate that we can see colors. Obviously, that red quickly lets you know, hey, something is not working. And if there are multiple versions of an option, so let me see this right here. So I just have maybe RI came in, and there's multiple things that contain the word RI. I actually have a sort of a cheat sheet here that shows you every account that contains RI consequentially. And if the account that you want is in this list somehow, let me just add a G here, or maybe add a, let's see. Okay, there you go. Something that has more than one. Then if I figure out exactly which is the one that I was supposed to hit, just click on that and then it'll replace it for you. So that's the kind of a interesting piece about it, is that we catch some of them. And then once you're done, you click on paste into QuickBooks, and essentially it gets pasted as if you were doing an actual copy paste. Now, because we cannot do copy paste, period, this is the workaround per se that we have built into this. Okay, there's also a sort of an extended bonus to this. So it says copy Excel to transactions. So this was built originally just for journal entries, but now we've added into some of the some of the sort of live transactions that are in QuickBooks. I believe it's only on the new invoices and the new
It's
bills.
on the new It's like basically any kind of new transaction. I guess if QuickBooks is going to be slower on transferring, which I'm not necessarily complaining about in its own way, but
yeah, we
QuickBooks
might
is
go
going
back
to
and
be
add it to
slow.
the classic transactions. But
Yeah.
for example, so in this particular company file, we don't have the new bill screen. So if I go into bills, this is the classic bill screen. We don't have the new bill screen. Okay. So the way we work here, again, because we're not using accounts, we're using items. What we would essentially be, we would be pasting into the products and services screen. So if I go up here and click on paste Excel, okay, you're going to have similar workflow here. And now we have service date, product service, description, quantity, rate, amount. And essentially, we will have to build an Excel with that sort of information. So let's do that really quick. And let's zoom in here to 100%. And let's just make sure we can export all data so we can have a little cheat sheet here. Make sure we have the correct items. So I'll just copy a couple of items and I'm going to put them in here. And then the next two columns are description, quantity, and rate. So under description, I'm just going to put here February and copy that down. And then we have, that's fine. We'll do that like that. And then quantity, quantity will bring in multiple numbers here. And then for rate, we will bring, let's say, $50 for everything. We'll copy that down. Okay. So essentially what we're doing is we have this information in a template or Excel for one reason or the other. Maybe we export it from an older invoice. And again, we're manipulating item name, we're manipulating description, quantity, and rate. And when we come in here, we're going to paste.
Oh, you might have to do one extra copy just because of the service date thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's bring in. Yep. So we'll bring that in. Because service date is part of this one. So we'll paste this in there. Okay. So now we have all of our item names in this case. We have all of our descriptions, the quantity and the rate. I'm skipping amount for now. But let's just see if that works. Okay. Yeah. So QuickBooks will calculate that for you. Okay. So essentially that's the point of this, that again, you might have this information already in Excel, or it's easier for you to take something old and manipulate it, especially when it comes to adding descriptions or calculating amounts or rates and that sort of thing. And you may want to paste into it. So for now, it works in journal entries. It works on the new invoices, and it also works on the new bills, which new bills and expenses, which I don't think we have any file with that stuff already in there. Now, one of the questions that that Tiffany's asking is, can we paste tax rates? So I assume there's an extra field in the Canadian version, Tiffany, in this screen that has a tax code or a tax rate. Is that what it is?
Yes. Somebody actually specifically asked about this when I first released this feature. And so I am 100% sure the tax code is something that you can do with the copy and paste Excel.
So let's do a journal entry, and we'll pick up on an old journal entry here. Okay, let's pick up one that's long. Okay, all right. So a couple of things happen with copy down. I'm gonna go back into Batch Pro and go to copy down, copy rows. And this feature has gotten a bunch of things added to it. Before it was just copy down in journal entries. Now it's copy down in multiple transaction types. And there's also copy row, which actually means duplicate row. Okay. So essentially, let's say, for example, that I missed a location on this particular journal entry. I pick one of the locations here. Let's say we're going to do Canada here. And then we click on that little arrow pointing down, which is the copy down arrow. And then click on the location and then click OK. And it copies it down 100%. Now, the other interesting piece here is I'm gonna duplicate a couple of lines here. And basically, next to that plus button, there's a little red copy button. If I click on that a couple of times, it just keeps duplicating the line, okay? But what's also really interesting about this is we can also do, let's say, 4 at a time. So let's say I wanted the first 4 to be one location, the next 4 to be another location, the next 4 to be another location. So let's say we're going to change this to the Amazon location. I can click copy down, click on this and then just say, just go down 3 and then click OK. And then just change 1. And let's say the next one, I'm going to change that to New York office, copy down, click on that. And then the next 3, I want to be New York office. And let's say the rest, in this case, I want it to be, let's say Shopify. I go to copy down, click on the last one. Don't put a number. Leaving a 0 just means do everything. Click OK, and then it just copies everything down. This works with customer job. It works with classes. It works with amounts too, which is pretty interesting too. So let's say this is supposed to be, let's say, 68.989. I do copy down, copy that, click OK, and it just copies the number down. It also works with a description as well. And an interesting companion to this is actually it wasn't part of the top 5, but I think many people use this and forget that this is a separate feature. It's called the find and replace transactions. And this is actually really cool because sometimes you're looking at something inside of a transaction and you're trying to just change one thing about it. So for example, let's say this says January. Okay. Actually, let's make it even more complex. Let's just say adjusting entry for Jan 23 or something like that. Okay. And let's say that you have a journal entry that looks like this, and this was your January transaction. And then you come in here, like we all do, come here, duplicate it, and make the second entry for February. But then we're super, annoyed by the fact that, there's no dynamic content on this. So we have to go in each of these and change that. So we can click on this little button that says, well, it doesn't say anything, but it's a little magnifying glass, find and replace. And then we find the text, which was Jan-23, and then, or Jan-24, whatever it is. And then we put Feb-24 and essentially just do a simple find and replace. Click on replace all, and somehow I picked up 25. I don't know. Did I type 25?
You typed 25, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
No worries. The point is proven.
that's why I did that. But okay, fine. I made the mistake. It's actually perfect reason why this thing exists. And put Feb 24 and then click on replace all. There we go. Okay. So that find and replace, it's typically used very much in combination with copy Excel and copy down, copy rows. Those 3 in combination, especially if you do a lot of journal entries, that should make you super, super productive, especially when you do a lot of duplicates and a lot of long journal entries type of things. The next one is delete and void from the reconciliation page. So I'm going to go into RightTool, and then I'm going to go into Reconcile Pro, and then I'm going to turn on.
Was this actually voted for? I didn't look at the results recently. Was this actually the 4th most voted for thing?
It was the 4th most voted for thing, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Deleting things in QuickBooks apparently is a big thing.
I said deleting things in general, I guess, are like what people want. Okay, so let's go into the Reconcile page, and let's say you happen to be looking at a reconciliation, and then there's like a couple of transactions there that are sort of like bothering you, and you just want to get rid of them. So this is like, there's a lot of steps to delete a transaction from the reconciliation page. So essentially what we did is we just added a quick void button or delete button. So if you're looking at a transaction, you're like, I don't want to see this, just click on void. What it does is it opens the transaction for you, presses the buttons, and gets you all the way to the last step, and then it voids the transaction for you. Or in this case, they say, I just want to delete that. Click on delete, opens the transaction, hits the buttons for you, deletes in your behalf. Now, it always leaves you at the last are you sure page. You can actually override that by clicking on auto confirm delete. So it will always auto confirm delete. What it won't do is it won't auto confirm if the transaction is reconciled, which, by the way, you would never see it on the reconciliation page anyway. So I guess that was just a dumb comment in my behalf anyway. So that's what it does. It deletes the transaction, avoids it for you with a single click. We don't yet have the ability to delete in batch, so it's just one by one, because in the reconciliation page, it's a little bit more delicate process, I would say. So we typically don't just go in there and batch. But because, and we already show you that, because we have the batch delete feature, you can simply just go into your filters and go reconcile status and go to not reconciled, click on apply, and then you can batch delete, for a particular date range. you can batch delete anything that's already been unreconciled. So you don't have to be in the reconcile page to know what hasn't been reconciled. You can see it simply here. The thing is that most of the times, and this happens to me, is I know what I need to delete after I'm at this screen where it says 0, then at that point I know what I need to delete, right? So it's just much easier to just delete it from here. Okay. All right. So that was fourth most voted transaction. And the last one is quick create payee from memo. Okay. One of my favorites too. I've fantasized about this feature for a very long time. I would say even from the desktop days, I fantasized that we could do something like this just because this is one of the things that takes, in my opinion, probably the most time away from me, which is creating new vendors in the bank feed screen. So this one's quick create payees from memo. We turn that on, and there's a whole bunch of sub options like skip confirmation, stop before saving, choose vendor or customer. So I like to do skip confirmation, and I like to do choose vendor or customer. That's probably the best combination that I like. Then when I click save, and then I go back into any bank feeds, let's go into bank feeds. And let's say we're going down and we're looking at a bunch of transactions here, and I don't have this vendor. I don't have him in my list. Of course, QuickBooks is not detecting it. And coming in here and creating a vendor each time takes a long time. So what we've done is we added this little VC button here, once for vendor, once for customer. If I didn't have enabled the ability to pick which one, it would just be a plus button, and then you would still on the next screen have to choose which one it is. But if I select OpenAI in this case, or I don't have to select anything if it's the whole thing, and then I click on V, QuickBooks creates the vendor for me automatically. So just all that happened automatically. Maybe that was too fast. So let's grab this one. And let's say, for example, this vendor's name is AutoRoute. That SANF is nothing. Let's say that's nothing. So I basically select the text and then click on V, and it just goes in there, it goes to the cycle and opens the screen, paste that, creates the vendor for me automatically.
For one second, I just want to make sure. Am my internet being weird, or is the Zoom? Yeah, maybe it's my internet. Never mind. Okay, continue. I think for me, anyways, it's just my internet, I guess. Okay. For whatever reason, your vocals are perfectly in sync and your mouse is in sync with what you're doing, but for whatever reason, the video was kind of being slightly delayed. Okay. But I think that's my internet thing. Yeah. So
maybe turn off your webcam. Maybe.
Worry about it.
Okay. All right, so that was that feature, a quick create payee from memo. Okay, this will be under accountant. It should be under accountant. Yeah. So this one's called Reclassify from reports. Okay, and what this does is, if you are drilling down on a particular report, you can actually right click inside that drill down and take you straight into the Reclassify page. And kind of the use case for this is very typical for me. Like I'm looking at a report, and then I'm seeing like a number that doesn't feel like it's right. It feels like maybe the number's too big. And then I click on the drill down, and I go into the drill down page, and I realize, you know what? My suspicion was right. This is not the right category. All these things are being categorized incorrectly. It will take me a lot of steps to go to accountant tools, go to reclassify transactions, and then go find, the travel, the travel page, and then make sure the date range is in sync, and then go in there and reclassify. So let me go back a couple steps, and essentially I just simplify that by making it just so much quicker, which is we just right click anywhere on the screen. Okay, so we're now enabling right click menus, and this is going to be a whole revolution in 2024 of like right clicking on things inside QuickBooks Online, which is going to make tons of like QuickBooks Desktop old school users happy, because we're so used to right clicking on things. And now we're thinking about, okay, where could you instinctively right click and do something? Okay, but this is the first preview of what this would be. So we're going to click on Open QBO to reclassify, and essentially it opens up a new tab, and it goes straight into that particular account and that specific date range. It detects it from the report and builds it in here. Now you have to be on accountant version for that, so it saves you, in my opinion, tons of steps. Okay, And again, this date range is read from the report, okay? Because QuickBooks doesn't have a dynamic date range per se. It just picks whatever last thing you use. But whatever your report is, it will pick that date range from the report. All right, so now we have this one, and this was actually inspired by Matthew Fulton. It's called Search on Reconciled Amounts from the Reconciliation page. So I know it's a mouthful.
This is very much in beta, so there's a lot of things to fix about this one.
Right. So yeah, this won't be released in the next couple of days. We're still testing that. So this
is the most beta feature we currently have in the entire thing right now.
Right. Like I've literally just started testing it a couple hours ago. So essentially, and this was again, Matthew was telling me that sometimes you're in the reconciliation page, and before deciding to delete something, you may want to search it to see if there's another version of this transaction somewhere else in your books, which is actually a very interesting concept. But instead of going in there and going into the search page and searching each one, he wanted to open up all the tabs, and that each tab does a search for that amount. So we right-click on this page, and this is the second instance where you see the right-clicking work, and it says search all amounts in this screen into new tabs. So when I click that, a whole bunch of tabs are going to open after I tell it and confirm which of these dollar amounts I want to search. So we're going to add a couple of things here. We're going to do some sorting. We're going to do a select all. If you have both cleared and unreconciled, maybe we'll have a filter for that. But essentially, you'll say, you know what? Research these three for me. And then you click on search, and essentially 3 new tabs get open, or as many transactions that you have. And in each of the tabs, it conducted a dollar amount search, just in case, again, you want to double check what this is. And sometimes by seeing the transaction in another bank account, and then you realize, oh, okay, this transaction really belonged to another bank account, maybe it's better not to delete it. Or maybe it's a transfer or something like that, and you don't want to mess up a reconciliation in some other side. I mean, there's just so many potential applications for this. And again, this was our friend Matthew Fulton, which we actually co-developed this feature together. We actually sat there and we spent an hour playing with ChatGPT and going back and forth. And we actually sent Mark, our version of the code, and Mark is still kind of like, RightToolicing the code to make sure it all works well. So it's another feature that like I co-developed with Matthew, which is pretty interesting. And then the last one here is a pro feature called Net Money In and Money Out Totals in Batch Preview Bar. We're still workshopping the name, but it's a really cool feature. And this was we've been testing it for a while. We actually had it in the free version for a while. Let me switch out to this other company. We had it in the free version for a while, and there was some complexity for it, and then we made it a pro. We're about to make it a pro only feature. So one of the few features that we actually move from from free to pro. So essentially what this is sometimes you're selecting multiple transactions, and notice that QuickBooks actually keeps a tally of how many transactions are in and how many transactions are out. But unfortunately, it doesn't give you sort of a quick calculation of the two. And sometimes that quick calculation could be useful because maybe you're matching a bunch of these to a single deposit in the bank, or maybe you're matching it to like a batch from a merchant or something like that, and you want to double check and you're reconciling some other register that contains the subtotal of these two things, the plus and the minuses together. So we'll turn on this feature. This is going to have its own toggle, but we have it sort of hidden in our beta version under one of the regular features, but that's going to be its own toggle. So let me go back into bank transactions, and then I'll show you. So same thing. It's going to feel pretty natural. You're selecting a whole bunch of transactions, and there's now a net batch amount right under it. Again, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't create any new transactions. It just shows you net batch amount. We should probably make that light pink or something to show people that this is a RightTool thing, because it's very easy to confuse and think that the net batch amount, actually, it's a built-in QuickBooks Online feature.